Dean, is first.
Is there one person on there?
Yes.
There's two. Me, Devin. Sorry, Devin.
Yeah.
I just slapped him already. What do I do?
You're trying to go bid tonight. Yeah.
So, I need a sticker for my truck. My truck is owned by my company. This will be the 5th company truck I've had a sticker. I go to get a sticker, I can't get one. I have to use my wife's card every time to swipe to get into the gate. I have another vehicle. Actually, I have like 15 vehicles, to be honest with you. So, the one we use, I just drive through the gate, no problem, and then I sometimes there's no signs on the side of it. There's nothing. There's no crazy stuff going on the side of my truck. I just go home like I have been for the past 7 years.
Okay.
Why can I not get a sticker? It's registered in the company name. It's just odd to me that it's like the 5th company truck, and all of a sudden now I can't get a sticker. Where do we go from here? What do I do, or what do I have to do, or?
Okay, other comments, but now we should address yours right away, but we need to do it once the board meeting starts. All right.
Okay, so do I stop talking, or? I don't know, do we engage or do I?
I hear you, and I sympathize. I don't know what to do. I gotta ask what to do, and let's fix it, you know.
Okay.
Yeah.
Like I said, I understand. I have people that live on my street that have signs all over their cars and their personal vehicles for their company.
Yeah.
Mine's not. And me and my son were the ones who chainsawed down the street from the front to the back after the hurricane when nobody can drive through. That was me and my son who chainsawed through this. I do not complain. I do not have a problem with anything goes on here. I didn't even know this meeting existed until I couldn't get my sticker.
Tell me your name, please.
Devin Angels. Devin Angels, yes. You'll never see me again. Just give me my sticker and I'm done.
Do we have more comments? We'll shake hands.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, we're good.
All right.
No more. Okay, please goodbye. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. Meeting will come to order. Call roll. Present. Sandoval. Present. Ron South. Here. John Huckins is here. Grady Stevens. Here. Bill Simmons. Present. General Manager. Here. Okay. Do I hear a motion? We've all seen the minutes. Do I hear a motion to approve last meeting's minutes?
Yes, I'll move.
Motion made and seconded. Any discussion? Not. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Okay. We have the minutes approved. For the president board, I guess one thing I would say, this is not anywhere on the agenda, let's talk about Devin first. Also, for a couple of times, we didn't televise the comments before, and we had a lot of people complaining about that, and so we're going to televise it.
Well, I think that was an exception. It was like a one-off type of thing. We already shut it here.
So we weren't watching it beforehand, no problem. Okay, Chuck, what's the regulation that Devin's running up against?
So now these are the regulations as written.
Okay.
Obviously, regulations can be changed, but we're following what's already written and documented. The issue is if you have your own car and it's registered in your name, that's not a problem. But when you have a vehicle that's registered in a third company's name that doesn't have an address inside Sandoval, the way that the rules and regulations are written, that we can't provide a sticker.
Okay, can we tighten that up and allow it? What procedure would we use?
Well, I think I asked the board if anybody remembers, from what I understand is sticker on every one of those cars.
Why would you put a sticker on every car? You only have one vehicle going in here. I have 20 company
We
vehicles.
can't,
Sorry.
so-
So it's not a debate with the audience. I agree with you.
Okay,
So that's, if we limit
sorry.
to one vehicle per household, exception, is that reasonable?
Well, the problem is, it doesn't tie back to the address. The vehicle ties back to an address that's not inside the property. And his name is not on there. It's, you know, Acme Company, you know, not his property, but for example, you know, Bob's Plumbing, and his address is in Fort Myers. He could come in here 10 times because it doesn't say, you know, Bob Smith who lives at Sandoval. So the problem is keeping track of that, and then you change your vehicle and your lease expires. So I kind of understand the philosophy on how they put that in place. But as I said, that's how it was written.
I suggest we amend that policy and do it to you, and if it starts to be a problem, we'll readdress it. What do you think?
I don't get to think, I just.
I know. You do the tracking,
Yeah.
so that's why I.
Yeah, it'll be somewhat difficult because people can work the system that way.
Well, why don't we do it, and if it becomes untenable, we'll have to reverse it, okay? Anybody?
How about we make a common sense decision from the standpoint that they designate that particular vehicle that has the tag, and we use that as the benchmark? Does that make sense? Instead of,
Is there a way to do that?
I mean, they designate it's gonna be a 1984 Pinto, and, you know, that's what it's gonna be.
So I think the workaround could be to demand the lot number of the property and associate the vehicle to a lot number, because there is no second place to put another address in. So that might be the workaround. But there has been, you can't have 10 assigned to one lot.
That makes sense.
So there might be a limit that you put on as a board.
Anybody want to?
I was thinking to have 2 registrations per house, but then I remembered on my own street, there is an individual that has more than 2. So consequently, that's not a good answer either. But I think what Chuck has just suggested may be the way to go.
Is anybody ready to make a motion to that effect?
I will make that motion.
State the motion, please.
Okay. The motion is to assign a vehicle to the lot number of the residence.
One per?
Oh, wait, I don't know. Because, as I say, some people have 3 and 4 vehicles.
But they're personal.
True. Okay. This would be the exception where it's a commercial vehicle, 1 per lot number.
Perfect.
Okay. Do I have a second?
That makes sense.
Could we clarify that from the standpoint that it still has to meet the regs of the city
yes.
from the standpoint of no signs, et cetera?
Yes.
So add the language that 1 per lot, but it has to meet the other requirements, that it can't be marked as a commercial vehicle. Will that fix your problem?
Thank you. Can I go?
Well, we haven't done it yet.
And you gotta stay.
Any further,
I'm just kidding.
further discussion?
Good night, sorry to bother you.
I think it's a great idea. I think that we might put it into maybe 2, maybe there are 2. We may have a resident that has, you know, still has an wife.
That was my thinking of it too, but
That's something I think 1 would be great if you want, like you said, it's not like we can't change it later, so start with 1.
Let's start with 1. We have a motion, we have a second. All in favor, say aye. Opposed, no. I second. You're in, my friend, just gotta figure a way to go to the office and do it.
left. He's gone.
He's at the office trying to get a stick.
Like a sign thing going through.
I'm ready for the president's comments. Well, we got an election. This time, let's have a real one, all right? Last time, we didn't have enough for a quorum, so please, everybody, vote, either by proxy, being present, or online. We have have incumbents coming up that are not reelected. Will be your board members for another year. Me, Santoro, Marilyn Stout, and Bill Ciminelli. Our terms don't expire until April or March of 2024. So we have 6 candidates for 3 positions. Please vote. Another comment is that all of our standing committees, well, we have a lot of great committees, and all of you who are on the committees, please make it known you want to be there. All right. The committees can change at year end, so if you want to get off the committee, let us know. I want to ask all residents if you're interested in being on the committee. I think it's on the website, the committee application form. Is it? Okay. Fill in the form. Fill in as many committees you want to be on. Put them in priority sequence and send them into a general manager. We want our committees to be live and powerful. As I said, our roles continue to strengthen our committees, and some of them are really coming on strong. The next thing I want to mention is we put together a phase 3 due diligence committee to see if we really have a case to go after Taylor Morrison. That committee is operational. It's met with our council. We met with an engineer as recently as this week. There's a proposal for a preliminary analysis coming up. It's going to cost us less than the $20,000 we budgeted. It would be less than that, but we won't have that proposal in hand in time for the next week. We do expect, though, that we have a proposition in front of the board to take action or not by the April board meeting. So that's my comments. Next item of business. Treasury report. Bill, you need the
Yes,
screen? Huh?
yes, please.
Okay. We need to get out of the way.
I think most of the information will be above your heads, so. I didn't mean it, they haven't come out like it sounded.
Took you a while to say.
Okay,
She's on the
all right. So I will say that we're going to go through 4 different topics today. We're going to revisit one topic from the previous month because we needed to go through some clarification after some of the financials got restated. Real quick, our account balance with Fifth Third, which is our primary reserve account, is now at $3.4 million. We're still doing approximately a 3.5% return. That's going to gradually creep up as the Treasury bond interest rates start going higher and we start investing in the higher yield bonds. The Finance Committee completed an initial cash flow review to look at what our capital cash flow spend would be for the next 18 months, looking at what cash we had on hand, what cash would be coming in, and if we need to make any withdrawals from Fifth Third in the short term. Our assessment right now is that with the loan coming in, hopefully with the loan coming in, and with the money coming in from the reserve assessments, which start kicking in Q2, we won't be touching the Fifth Third account for at least the next 3 to 6 months. So we'll be keeping an eye on that. We're also looking at ways to maximize the account return. We're going to start investigating something called a sweep account to see if that's a way we can keep sort of like a minimum cash balance available for reserve spend, and anything in excess of that goes into the Fifth Third account. So that's going to require some investigation. Hurricane Ian, restoration efforts are still ongoing. Now, I won't take away Chuck's thunder. He's got a lot going on there. I will say that there are quotes outstanding that we still need to get in order to get the complete picture. We have done the application for the FEMA loan. I'll go through those details in a minute. And as the way we've done the last couple months, the risk committee has taken the lead on trying to maximize the insurance payout. Okay. Hurricane Ian financial impact. After sitting down with Chuck earlier this week, we are up to about $1.3 million in expenses either that have been spent or are quoted, or some, and as you can see, there's still a few expenses that we don't have quotes for, primarily in the fence area. Your insurance claim is an ongoing process with the risk committee. We applied for the SBA loan on the 11th of January. I was incorrect. The max amount of the loan can be $2 million. Our application is pending an on-site loss review. Someone associated with the SBA will be meeting with Chuck and myself to go through all the invoices and the detailed loss analysis to come up with a final number. As of now, based on the documentation that we have supplied to the SBA, we've been approved for a $624,000 loan. It's on a 15-year payback, 1.875%, and the first payment is due 12 months after the loan is executed. So hopefully with the loss review, we will get that up to a higher number. The big thing is that we talked about in the Finance Committee is that we believe that we wanted to put a stake in the ground, and the Finance Committee is going to be bringing a recommendation to the May board meeting for a Hurricane Ian assessment plan. Because we think we'll be through enough of the process by then that we'll have the numbers that we can start talking to the residents about how we're going to pay for all of this over the next couple of years. Revised 2022 year-end financials. Last month I presented the year-end financials for 2022. I did mention that they were subject to some revision because I had met with Socia earlier in the day, and as a result of that there were some adjustments that were made into the financials that I want to review with everybody. The first thing is that we're on an income level, we're off by about 0.6%, pretty good overall in terms of cash in. On operating expenses, we're off by 3.4%. One key thing I want to note is that that is taking out any revenue or expenses associated with the Taylor Morrison litigation last year, because I wanted to do a true apples-to-apples comparison of the budget. And the big areas are landscaping and repair and maintenance. So we're going to do a drill down of those in terms of how those drove the variances. The top expense categories that drive 90% of the budget. This is a breakdown of how they fared with the year with the restatement. And I said I'll go through those details in a minute. First, let's talk about neighborhood landscaping. That's for anybody that is handled with DTE. Our actual variance with DTE with the neighborhood landscaping was 40 grand. Offsetting that was in basically the last quarter of the year they did very little irrigation work and did not invoice for it, so that netted out from a budget perspective that we were 26 grand over budget for neighborhood landscaping irrigation. As we talked, and we've got the settlement been paid, and that was part of the 23 budget, so we should be on an even Stevens with them for this year now. This is going to be an ongoing investigation of trying to do much more deeper drill downs of where all the expenses were in repair and maintenance. Clubhouse repair and maintenance, they had the biggest variance, signage, fitness equipment, pool supplies. Those are sort of the top areas, sports courts. And now they've got a complete dump of all the invoices associated with these GL accounts. I can sort of piece apart and try to figure out what really drove some of these, but this is the level of detail that drove the variance for repair and maintenance. The rest of the expenses, pretty good. As I mentioned last month, the administrative is off because that's where we arbitrarily put the Christmas decorations for 2022 in because they were not a budget item. So that's why that shows an overage there. There was a big change to the balance sheet. So if you compare what the balance sheet looked like in the preliminary results back in January to today, you'll see that the big change was in total assets. The original assets was about a little bit over $1 million, $1.3 million. And the change resulted because working with Associate, we got a correct restatement of the funds that are now associated with the reserve balance sheet. So the money didn't go away, it's just now in the correct column. And as you see, the reserve balance sheet is now at $3.9 million in assets. So that reflects a pretty healthy set of reserves for the community. And the other big change is that the 211 is listed as a liability for the insurance claim payment until that's all settled. Now, moving on to 2023. 1 month, it's hard to do any kind of trend analysis. So I'm just going to do a quick synopsis that we're a little bit behind on the revenue side, operating income, but I think that'll catch up, especially as people get caught up with their payments with some of the confusion that occurred with the first quarter payments. On the operating expenses, we're in the black. However, there is one notable exception over in neighborhood landscape and irrigation. And I think as I went through the invoices, those are a couple of those invoices should be backed into 2022, so I need to talk to the associate bookkeepers about that. And that's why that is sticking out like a sore thumb right now. So I'll be working on that over the next month. But other than that, it's going to take a few months before we really have some good trends for 2023. This is a new topic I wanted to put in front of the community. We're starting to take a look at the delinquencies. And what I did is a trend analysis of the age of the delinquencies from January of last year through January of this year. So I know everybody's looking and wish they had a better eye chart here. So, but the important thing is that if you don't, the first few months when associates started running the show here, you really can't pay attention to that because it took a while for the billing cycles to get normalized with all the residents. So you really start looking from about April, May of last year on to see where the delinquencies are. The big information here is that our delinquencies can be put into two distinct buckets. One bucket, I would say, little late, and the other bucket is very late. And unfortunately, the very late bucket, 10 households in the very late bucket comprise 46% of our delinquencies right now. So Chuck and I have been discussing that, and we're going to work with the appropriate associate office to start focusing on those top 10 to see if we can get some of that resolved over the next several months. And that's it for the treasurer's report. Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
On the delinquencies, the 10 addresses, are those homes being sold? Are they in foreclosure? Is there a lien against the houses?
I don't know the answer to that. I just was able to get the data parsed to identify those 10 households. And then it requires more investigation on that. But there's one that sort of sticks out as a sore thumb that I think is gone into bankruptcy, but other than that, I have to look at the other ones.
Next item is general manager's report.
Bill, I have a question about the SBA loan.
Yeah.
Once we have an idea on the dollar amount that they're going to approve, I would imagine that would come back for formal board approval?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And
And we'll also, we talked about that it's going to go to the risk committee
formally approved by
Yeah.
the board with what we've got. And
Correct.
then the documents, the proposed closing documents, because it is a bridge to be used, obviously, that we can repair a lot of stuff, but the risk management and the HOA attorney would need to review the closing documents just to make sure that we're good. My other quick comment is I would hope that the finance committee would come up with a proposal on how to sunset this quicker than 15 years. I think that
Agreed, it's gonna be part of, we started, you know, coming up with different scenarios in terms of trying to match a shorter term payment with the assessment. So we will be looking, we're gonna try to come up with a couple different proposals that, my personal opinion is we should try to pay off the loan in under 3 to 5 years.
perfect. Because my other comment, which is probably agrees with yours, debt is dead.
Yeah.
And we just need to get rid of it as quick as we can because
Yeah.
there is a negative impact to sales and perception of property value if there's a debt lingering out there. So
Yeah.
perfect. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions on the treasurer's report? Thanks, John.
All right. I've been asked to give an update on post-EM status as well as some other things. Over the past month, I'll say that we've completed repairing the wall at the veteran side in Hayden. It was breached during trees falling down. So Permcast has been here and completed that work. A little bit more than we expected from the initial inspection, but once they got here, they started to identify other issues. So that's been completed. That was originally earmarked for April. They were trying to set expectations with us that they wouldn't be here until April. So I'm kind of happy that that took place. Sidewalks, this past week, we started dealing with some of the trip hazards with some of the sidewalks that are in the Esplanade, other areas. There is also additional phases that will take place that are down some of the streets and roads, sidewalks in the areas. We try to take care of the main thoroughfare first, and then keep working from there. Signs. For those of you, I do know how to spell Lambay. It wasn't me.
Thank you.
I can show you the spreadsheet. Spelled it correctly. So, they will be here Saturday, and they will continue. The way they explained it, they manufacture their signs during the week, and those same people are working Saturdays to install them. So we're scheduled to be installed for Saturday. What will happen afterwards, since Brian is on medical leave, Chuck will walk the entire property with the vendor to make sure I sign off on every single sign that was installed before closing on final payment. Let's see. This week we also, the Socia maintenance team removed the fence at Calypso Park in preparation for what we hope to be is the erosion quote that we're going to put in front of the board today. This was cost savings that we tried to do. Quite honestly, we couldn't find somebody to do the work, so we did it ourselves. The Pelican building here, the good news is minimal damage on this roof, only a few tiles. The even better news is that we actually have tiles that are behind the pool area that will be used to do this. I've signed off on that. It's a couple $100 to repair this roof once for all. And then secondly, the clubhouse, which has sustained a lot more damage, that will be cleaned up and dried in. And then by the next meeting, board meeting, I hope to have at least 5 roofing proposals to put in front of the board for consideration for the clubhouse roof to be replaced. Stumps, as you can see, what I call the second phase, not to be confused with the phases of first phase, second phase here that we know so well. But obviously the first phase was Crawford's immediate reaction to clearing the streets and getting the main trees down. Second phase was to go after the stumps, remove the stumps, and some other additional branches. The next phase is something that we'll consider tonight. Now, the stumps, they're still there. Unfortunately for us, stumps, they can't get rid of the stumps here in Lee County. They have to take it to Hendrick County. So you can imagine, they load up about 4 or 5 of these stumps in their truck and drive out to Hendrick County. By the time they get back, this has become a very slow process. I've got a commitment from them that early part of next week, they will have the remaining stumps off the property. The next phase would be to fill in those holes in which stumps created. Also go after additional leaning trees, trees that are hanging over the fence on bridle on some of our borders, some community trees. You know, it really should be what I hope to be the final stage of our cleanup of the trees. That said, when we do find a fence company, they will have the opportunity to tell us that we may have to remove certain trees that we think are okay in order for them to work on that fence. So I don't want to say we're done, but I just want to say that this should be the last phase. And I did send proposals in your packets for consideration. I'll talk a little bit about, that's it for, street signs. Bill took some of my working with the auditor stuff. So I'd like to talk about gates. I mentioned this in coffee and conversation. I think I put it in one of my jam reports, but this is the first time that I've had, working with Envira, we've got some numbers. And first of all, we had the gates finally operational in January, so that was a pleasure. For the month of January, we have had 146,127 entries into the community. That's both residents and visitors. That means equal amount leaving. So you can understand that those gates get a pretty good workout. During that time, we've had 15, I'll call it gate incidents, which a car either damaged the barrier arm or actually hit the gate. Of those 15, so far we've recovered for January $2,655. That doesn't mean we're done. It means that we've notified people and that we're going after them. So so far, for the month of February, we're on track to that same 2,500 or better. One of which is a Lee County school bus. So it's going to take us a little time to get our tax dollars from them to pay for the gate that was damaged. So that may take a little bit longer, but we're on them. So we hope that first of all, we hope that people stop hitting the gates. Second of all, if you do hit the gates, you need to know that Chris is coming for you. And I'm not talking about just owners. We're talking about vendors and such. So sometimes we can get a clear plate and we can identify them. Sometimes we can't. But at least, I think we had budgeted recovery. Bill, correct me if I'm wrong. I think the budget said 6,000.
Yeah.
We're already on track to surpass that. But again, this is a double-edged sword. Like, stop hitting the gates and we won't have to deal with this. So I will report on this every month. I think it's an important thing that we need to remind everybody. But it is an asset that there's a lot of money in the budget for us to repair it. But it's good to know that we're actually starting to recoup some of that money. Let's see. Bocce. I was asked to talk about bocce. Any bocce guys here? Thank you. Yeah, if you peer out the window there, the end women, I'm sorry. We obviously had a very good showing this week with our paper guy. All the old papers have been removed, and new papers are here. We're anticipating hopefully Monday or Tuesday they should be finished. So we are in the final stages of a project that took way too long, and we hope not to renovate the bocce courts, at least in our lifetime. So, but yeah, that's finally a project that we can put behind us. Notes here. I would like to ask the board at this time to give consideration to a reserve expenditure request that was in your packet. There are 3 quotes in this packet. The first one is for Lake 2 erosion repair. There's bids from 3 companies. Solitude Lake Management is our current vendor for maintaining our lakes. They provided what I believe is a good solution for us at a price that is lower than the others. Their contract has been reviewed by risk management, and the board has had this. And I would ask if we can have a motion to approve $145,350, of which $136,850 would be for Solitude Lake Management, $500 would be for permitting that is required, and then we would carry $8,000 contingency.
I'd make a motion to approve.
Second.
I'd just like to make one quick comment. I think the risk management committee looked at this multiple times. That's probably accurate, right, Chuck?
Oh, yeah.
I just wanted to commend Chuck for putting together the project process form and all the documentation. This is the way it should be done. Thank you for doing that. And in addition to Mr. Bill Dunker, who prepared the independent contractors agreement, which is also attached, which for the first time, I believe, it's a document that protects our interest as an HOA versus being one-sided to the vendor. So kudos to him.
I think this is an example of a lot of things working right.
That is correct.
Our Jim has had multiple bids and saved us a lot of money from the highest bid, plus the risk committee and our treasurer. So I think I certainly support this. Any more discussion?
Just so that everybody knows, Lake 2 is Calypso Lake.
Correct.
Where the park is.
Yeah.
And if you've actually gone out onto Calypso Lake and looked back towards Sandoval Boulevard, you'll see exactly why this is costing so much money. Pretty bad.
By the way, we might need help getting the permit quicker. She knows the guy, all right? So if we can get that permit quicker, that's great. All in favor of this reserve expenditure, raise your hand. Opposed? Negative. Motion passes. Thank you. Chuck?
The second reserve expenditure request that you have in front of you is for what I explained before, is what I hope to be the final phase of tree stump renovation, repair. This is, in your packet, you'll see that the stump phase was approved for $56,120 for estate landscaping, and this is, the final phase is for $61,751.18, and this covers all the remaining outstanding issues that we have as far as tree removal, stump removal, and filling in holes, and some sod in the dog parks to get those back up and running as well.
I'd make a motion for approval.
Second.
I'd like to comment on this.
Please.
Okay. And the explanation of need, one of the things that's came to my attention is that there's a need for tree removal and soil replacement and stump removal, and I'm going to mispronounce Militia at the end of the street. You've got the cul-de-sac, but then you've got the fence line where there are some trees and bushes that are down, and the fence and some bushes will have to be removed so that the fence can be repaired.
Is that part of this?
Well, it's not the fence part, but the tree part is not mentioned specifically here.
Okay.
So I just wanted to make sure that that is included as part of the work. I mean, I ran into some rather irate residents about that over the weekend.
Well,
Would it make sense from a standpoint of not delaying is to maybe increase the approval amount to 70, as long as it's under 70 to include that scope of work?
Yep, I'm fine with that. I just don't want to lose track of that street.
I don't want to lose them up.
No, so I would modify my motion to move it to no more than 70,000 expenditure to include Melinda's repairs as well.
Thank you.
A second.
And second agrees.
Okay, let's vote on the amendment. All in favor of the amendment, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. All in favor of the motion, say aye. Opposed, no. Motion carries. Chuck?
I'm sorry, I'm taking minutes here at the same time. I think that's it for me.
Okay. Old business. Do we have any old business?
No.
Okay. We have new business.
New business
We
is,
just did it.
we just did it, yeah. And we do have two
Oh,
warrants.
sorry.
Yeah, we're doing paperwork here at the same time. There you go. I think the second new business is two warrants for violations for board approval. That was in your packet.
I can add to this a little bit since I'm the liaison to the covenants. The way I understand the process to work is that these particular two violations are to be approved by the board. Once they're approved, they go back to the covenants committee for recommendation on a fine. So these are in your package for approval. Once they're approved, then they will funnel back through the covenants committee for actual fine, a recommendation of fine. Correct?
Correct.
Clearly do not say the names of this meeting.
That would be that.
So let me ask you a question. So on any of these where they do a fine, that has to come before the board for them to issue a fine? Or is the covenants committee allowed to do that?
Cannot issue fines.
Committee,
Only the board can issue
So
fines.
they recommend it,
They
you
recommend it.
review it,
Yes.
approve it?
and they're actually provide the hearing. You get an opportunity to state the case, so that's really the main.
What's the probable fine in these cases? $100?
You know more than 100 by state
Not much,
statute.
it's
Yes.
dollars. But we still need it.
Yeah.
All right.
Because Brady, to answer your question, we were doing it backwards previously to where it was the board set the fine and then it went to the covenants committee. Actually, this is the way it's done, is the board approves the violation that goes to covenants. They recommend the fine and it comes back to the board for approval.
I have a question. It is obvious that these two driveways are in violation, and they look really bad. Do the owners of these homes understand that the fine is $100 if they don't get them cleaned up?
The process is a friendly reminder letter, then a second reminder that puts a timestamp on, you need to solve this, you need to cure this problem. So they've exhausted the free reminders, and now this is an action that needs to be taken.
But I'm just wondering if they understand that there's going to be a fine of $100 if
Yes.
they don't do it.
Yes.
Okay.
Another thing we talked about is that if a delay occurs because you can't get the vendor to fix it yet, we may allow it. But this is beyond.
So they've been mailed the violation, they've been mailed the notice of intent after the friendly reminder, the date set, and they're given a notice of intent.
And it comes to the
Then the
board.
hearing, right, and then it comes to us. So even if this were a rental home, which I know one of them is, yeah, I can't imagine that there's not been notice to either of these owners.
Do I hear a motion to,
I'd make a motion to move these to the covenants committee for a recommendation on fine.
I'll second that.
any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Vote no. Great. Okay, let's go to committee
The Sandoval Landscape Committee met twice this month, February the 1st and February the 15th. Both of our contractors, DTE and Crawford, were in attendance, not together but separately. Going forward, Crawford will attend the meeting on the first Wednesday of the month. DTE will attend the meeting on the third Wednesday of the month. At the meeting, Mo and Cody, employees of Crawford, reviewed a few project proposals, and the committee requested that these and all future proposals include sketches to help understand the scope of the work. Crawford also discussed work that was scheduled for the month of February. DTE came in next after Crawford left. DTE was represented by Tom Trombley. He is the area vice president for DTE. The committee expressed their disappointment in the manner that mulch was recently installed. This included weeds not being pulled, shrubs trimmed prior to the mulch installation, as well as pallets sitting on lawns for over a week. For those of you who live out in that section, you understand exactly what I'm talking about. DTE was also informed that the Landscape Committee is now actively tracking their work orders. The DTE has shared their work order spreadsheet, which included over 150 work orders that were submitted during January. Many of them were still incomplete. DTE has been requested for a February update from their work order system, which they can provide very easily. It's not a lot of work for them to do that. We put in the request for it, it's just going to happen. So far this month, the committee is aware of over 40 DTE work orders that were shared via the Landscape Committee email address. Remember, those are going to be things that you send in, make notice of, and they go over every work order, whether you reach out to Landscape or not. The Landscape Committee is also seeing a number of emails that address common area concerns, as well as questions about hurricane cleanup. The landscape cleanup from hurricane is progressing. It includes stump removal from the parkway, we talked about that, and the boulevard, the Phase 3 dog park and other areas. Broken irrigation lines, which seem to be popping up everywhere, are being addressed. In the future, holes will be filled in and eventually sod installed. There's still mulch work that needs to be done, and we're sincerely appreciative of everyone's patience. The RFP, Subcommittee for Bulk Residential Landscape Services, has already completed its rough draft of the RFP since being appointed to the January board meeting. The subcommittee has worked diligently to accomplish this in less than a month, and it is their hope to get it to the general manager and the board of directors soon. This was respectfully submitted by Lynn Berry. She's the co-director of the committee. She was unable to make it tonight to make that presentation, so I did read that on her behalf. One of the things I would add is that continue doing what you're doing. Open the work orders. If you see something that looks broken, take a picture of it, send it to Chuck, send it to the landscape committee, whichever is easiest for you. It's better for them to get 2 or 3 notices of a problem than not get any notice at all. They never want to say, we didn't know about it. And that's all for the landscape committee. You're doing a great job. John's been in attendance for the last couple of meetings or so. His wife Lynn serves on the committee, and I hope Lynn is doing better. They continue to do a great job. This is my last formal meeting here, and I just want to say to the landscape team how appreciative I am of the work that you've done. It was great working with each of you. Thank you very much. Moving on to the ARC committee. The ARC committee has been, they've had their heads down and they've been doing a lot of work with the applications that have been coming in. We've got a couple of volunteers that have stepped in to help and assist on the weekends where we have huge numbers. One of the data sets that the committee chair, she doesn't like to be called the committee chair, but she does a great job, and I really appreciate the work that she does as well as all the other members. The total applications received as of our last meeting last weekend was 210 applications. Of those, 53% were for concrete tile, cement tile, 22% were for stone-coated metal, and 25% were for standing seam. These numbers appear to change as residents see roofs going up and they amend their application. We've seen a number of applications come in and they'll ask for a metal product, but then they'll see something else. So for example, they'll see that someone was able to get cement and they'll go with that. I think that's the reason we're seeing the concrete tile at double of each of the the others. But the main thing is people have the option now, so they're taking advantage of that. One of the noted items is that the stone-coated and standing seam applications, those are the ones that once people are seeing that they are able to get cement tile. I don't know how these companies were able to turn the production and delivery around, but fortunately it turned out to not be the worst case scenario that we thought it would be. So apparently out-of-state factories are making a big difference. One of the things that kind of ties in here at the end, and I was not able to get this addressed for this meeting, but we've seen a couple of, and this is a big discussion with the ART team members, and it has to do with residents, homes that have multiple violations that are outstanding, but they haven't resolved them. And yet what they do is they send in an application to make another change to their home. And the ART team genuinely feels, and I hope that whoever picks up this team next month will support this. I don't know that anybody can make the motion, put it together and make the motion, but there seems to be, and I agree with this, there seems to be a concern that people who already have outstanding violations that are uncured are looking to make additional changes to their home. Of course, we're not talking about hurricane relief. We're not looking to deny them a roof, but it seems that the concern is that they need to resolve the other violations before they're given an opportunity to do something else. So give that consideration to whoever gets the committee. Listen to them. They know what they're talking about.
Thank you for all the service you've given to the community and your time on the board.
I've enjoyed it. Thank you very much.
I have just a quick comment, perhaps. Would it be possible that the DTE representative addresses the work issue versus getting into a personal back and forth with the property owner in regards to their situation? I've read some conversations back and forth on their work order thing. I mean, I guess what I'm saying is the person who handles the work order should just address the issue and not get into finger pointing on who's right or wrong. Just fix it and get it taken care of. Does that make sense?
It does. But once you start peeling back that onion, you see the problem that's happening with communication through those work orders. And that's the reason that the landscape committee has taken on the effort of looking at each one and going, okay, and then they step in as a third party and would look, just like you said, clearly you're not hearing what they're saying, and clearly, so then they just put it into it and just hold each of the feet to the fire. And ultimately what this will do is give us the opportunity to have substantial results that we can use to make decisions going down the road.
Believe me, when we select the next vendor, that's going to be part and parcel of the process and the contract that we have a way of measuring and performance. Aren't we, Dave?
Thanks, Grady.
All right. It has Lakes Committee meeting, but it's not me. We want our chairman to present, so Jane, send it out. I'm sorry. I was anxious for Jane to get up here, sorry. She can go. Yeah, go ahead, Jane. If I called you first, yeah, sorry. I was just thinking about it.
Okay. The Lakes Committee met, oh, you want me to hold that or just?
Yeah.
No. Okay. The Lakes Committee met on the 21st. Chuck presented the repair for Lake 2, which he talked about tonight. The committee is going to wait on having a shoreline review done by the lake doctor until after the ad hoc committee completes its work on the Phase 3 lakes issues. The committee is planning on working more closely with the Ponds Watch by reviewing the monthly reports with members of the Ponds Watch. Mary Manville is stepping down as coordinator for the Ponds Watch, and Stuart Seckler is taking over that position.
Thank you, Stu.
Yes. The Lakes Committee is going to be working more closely with Solitudes with any ongoing issues with the lakes. There's been 2 volunteers to work the point on that, and Chuck is going to provide the contact information. We are currently reviewing the best ways to communicate with the community, to communicate with the community, everyone's part in keeping the lakes healthy. We've got 2 people working on point on that. Okay.
Thank you, James.
I'm going to turn it off.
Dan.
Who's next? There it goes.
My turn. The amenities, everything's working pretty good. He went over the bocce. Thanks to the bocce guys, you guys are doing great. But really, thank you. That's awesome that you guys are working hard. It's almost done. The one motor for the pool that was missing and damaged, it was installed on Monday and it's good to go. The pool's great, thanks to Jack and Chris and everybody involved. That's our big amenity, so it's awesome that it's working great. The gym, there's a lot of people at the gym using it. I think we need a bigger gym, but you know, that's a good problem to have. I like waiting for machines. You know, when I'm in there and people are all over the place, it makes me happy. So that's pretty good. As far as we got to put more sand into the volleyball court. That's a work in progress to get that. We're getting a lot of volleyball players, which is great too. At nighttime, we see different ages, kids, young, old, parents, so that's also very nice. We're going to be getting the horseshoes. If we can get them already, I can get a report on that. I forgot to ask. The amenities are doing good. Everything's working pretty good. Chris is looking into changing one of the water features, the palm tree that is old and ready to go. We're looking into a mushroom waterfall type thing, nice and colorful. That's a work in progress for that. And that's pretty much it for all the amenities. Moving on to safety and security. Our security company is doing a decent job. They're getting the work done. They're patrolling, they're doing their reports. They're finally starting to get into the stop sign violation detail that we've been working on for a long time now. But we keep running into, a couple little problems, issues with getting the registrations of the vehicles or the names of who's actually driving or who's actually registered. Do they live here? But it's a work in progress, but we're working on it. It stops on violations. It's also big for speed deterrent and to hopefully slow people down, let them know, we're watching, we're taking video. I got a couple videos today, of course, running the stop signs like we all see, and the picture of the license plate. And if this was to go live today, we would have got 2 cars that definitely would have got a $106 fine, 100 for the fine and $6 processing fee. As that's up right now, it could go up because we don't have it 100% done, but we're working, and we'll go from there. The line painting, we got to paint the crosswalks and the stop bars. We're working on that also. Send it up to risk management. Bill Dunker, who does a fantastic job. I didn't like him when I was getting the gym done because he was, on me, but he does a great job. Kicked it back because we made mistakes. So Chuck's working on it. We're working on it. We're going to get the lines painted, make them nice and fresh so that people will see what's stopping the stop signs. And a lot of people walking, so you can see the piano keys. We're going to be putting back, Brian or John, they're going to be putting back the pedestrian walking signs, which I see that they work. I mean, sometimes people from me stop with nobody around, and it's but they stop, which is good. You don't have to stop, but if you stop, hey, that's fine too. Stop every time. That's it. Everything else is on cruise control. Chuck went over the gates. I think he said a lot of people come in and out of Sandoval, and only a small fraction of gates are being hit, which is great. You know, they're gonna get hit and we're getting the money back. So there's a lot of complaining about people hitting the gates and we need a new system. There's a lot of people that come in and out of this place, a lot. And for the percentage rate that are hitting the gates, it's, you know, it's not bad at all, you know. And we just gotta keep working on it and maybe keep putting it out there, you know, hey, slow down, wait for the gate to come down, blah, blah, blah. I put the arm back a couple times myself when I come in at night from the soccer field, and you know, it is what it is. So we just gotta keep working on it, that's all. And that's it.
Thank you, Stan.
Yep.
Marilyn, social.
Okay, social committee has delayed their meeting dates several times, and now it's set for February 28th at 2 p.m. There is an agenda for that meeting. The agenda is 2 pages with 6 pages of backup. So it's a very healthy meeting. I will mention some of the March events because I don't know whether all of the residents know. But on the 17th, which is St. Patrick's Day, there will be an bring a dish, potluck, BYOB, 5:30, $5 per person by check. And anyway, you would have to let the social director know.
You get music?
I'm not sure of that. It wasn't on the flyer. I did read that 52 have signed up for the CPR class, which of course I think is a good number. The Jimmy Maz program is sold out. There is a waiting list, but they're looking forward to this event because this gentleman was actually scheduled for January, but I think nobody knew about it, and so they rescheduled him for March. There are also beginning state events. New York is on the 4th, Illinois is 25th, and Wisconsin, they haven't set a date yet. There is going to be Bobby James playing at the pool 1 to 4 on March 18th. And I think all of these notices will be sent out to all the residents if they haven't been already sent out. My last thought is I saw on the calendar, and I also see it on our agenda, that our next board meeting date is March 23rd. And I just wondered whether it's the 4th Thursday or the last Thursday. I don't remember. I know it came up in the past, but I just didn't remember whether it was 4th Thursday or last Thursday. Grady, do you happen to remember? Because I'm sure you were on the board when it was discussed.
It was typically the last Thursday.
That's what I thought was the last Thursday, which would make it March 30th instead of the 23rd.
There's been some discussion over that. I think that there's, I want to say that Kathleen indicated that there was some change that wanted to be done. So it may, I doubt it's the 4th Thursday. I think it is the last Thursday.
That was my thought, that's why I brought it up.
What's that?
Yeah, just tell me when you want to have the meeting.
It's that easy.
What do you think?
I don't care.
We've always said last Thursday. I think we should stay with that. One reason, that way we get the financial reports in time so that Bill has it for the board meeting. That's the
March 30th.
What?
Those are important.
Yeah, they are important. What's the money? What's the money, right? Yeah, let's make it the 30th.
Okay,
Any objection?
that's all I have for social.
Okay. Now you got communications.
Yes, I do. And Dave Odd is going to make the presentation for communication.
It's on.
All right, for the communication committee, we met a couple weeks ago, and the bulk bulk of the meeting was looking at some possible new software for broadcasting our monthly board meetings. There's a lot of work that has to go into it. There's a lot of review that we have to do, and that's still up in the air as to what direction we can go in. The other thing that I wanted to bring up was the resident handbook. Been working on it for about the last month, and I've sent it out to the board, and unless the board has any objection, I'd like to get it loaded to the Live Sandoval website as soon as possible so that we can get the updated information out to the residents.
You need a motion for that, or just?
Go.
Go, Dave.
Go?
That's great, yeah.
I owe you edits.
Oh.
I'm
Sorry.
So I have to wait on Chuck.
You need to do more of it, more stuff to it?
Just a couple of things that need to be tweaked. Nothing substantial.
Just gotta wait a bit.
I mean, they're minor.
You can fix it after you upload it. It's not like it's permanent.
Yeah.
The sooner we get new stuff in there, the better for me.
Then why don't I'll upload it Monday, and
If you need to modify it.
if there's any changes that come in before then,
I'll go with you tomorrow.
all right,
Early.
okay.
You got a problem with it?
No. I've read it cover to cover, and it's 37 or 38 pages. Twice I've read it. I think Dave has done a fantastic job. I really do. It's just- and he deserves that applause.
All right, thank you.
Thanks, Dave.
We normally have our chairman give the report, but Lori Bernard could not be here tonight, so I'm reporting from the neighborhood reps. Most of the neighborhood rep meetings are really information from Chuck and questions about the neighborhood. So he's already told us most of that tonight in his report, so I won't go over that again. But there was one thing they needed was a better update of notifying the people on the committee of when new residents come in, so they can follow up and meet them and do the things necessary. And that procedure is in process. There were also, there was a discussion of fence setback. It was very brief, but I'll ask now for those people who are watching, is there anyone who wants to put a fence in their backyard and maybe enclose it for a dog or whatever, and is having a problem with the setback? Right now, you're limited, and there might be some reason, for instance, if you're in a non-lake backyard, it wouldn't make sense to have it 10 feet away from your property line. So if anybody needs that, submit that request and we'll look at it. But we might need to amend our bylaws in order to make that happen. Does that make sense?
For the entire procedure or just face it?
No, it's whatever, I don't know of any reason other than phase two. No. Right. But so far, I haven't seen anyone making that kind of application or one thing. So nobody's passed the regulation, nobody needs it. Of course, good. There's also a discussion of the CenturyLink. Many people have had trouble knowing where to go with the CenturyLink. We now have clear communication with an account rep from CenturyLink. Chuck meets with them on a bi-monthly basis. So if you have CenturyLink issues, we have a lot better way of getting through to them. Also, they've done a submission of street light repairs to LCEC. We've got that repair submission. And another thing that they're doing now at the office is if you don't have cash or check, they will accept credit card payments. They're working on it. It will cost you, there's a fee. That's for the processing fee. But at least we have that. Is that in process or is that already done? Yeah. It's ready now. So those of you need to do that, please Finance, Mr. Simonelli.
Thank you. The Finance Committee met this past Tuesday on the 21st. The first order of business is we talked about the new board year commencing in March of 2023, and I asked all the current members to give me a positive reaffirmation that they want to continue on the Finance Committee for the new year. I also tried to twist all their arms to see if anyone would be interested in stepping up as the chairperson for the Finance Committee, so I could just act as liaison, and hopefully we'll have someone step forward by the end of March on that. I did meet with a resident who's a snowbird that had expressed some interest in joining the Finance Committee. After discussing the issues that we're dealing with, the resident declined to continue his interest, so we still have one position open. If someone is interested in joining the Finance Committee, we'd like to have as many people part of this because we've got some very, very interesting things going on over the course of the year. We talked about the impact of Ian and related expenses. We did a deep dive into the 2022 year-end expenses and the changes to the income expense statement and the balance sheets that we reviewed with the community today. Then we did a deep dive into the delinquency trend report and talked about that a bit and started talking about different strategies for dealing with delinquencies going forward. We also did an update on the Ian recap and talked about some of the issues related to getting that loan completed. We talked about the current financials, same information that we reviewed today. Sean Kinney, one of the members of the Finance Committee, completed a cash flow analysis with Chuck earlier in the week, and we reviewed those details and determined, as I mentioned earlier, that from a cash flow perspective, our accounts were in good shape and we did not need to touch the Fifth Third account at this point. One of the things that I asked the committee members to come up with was recommendations for our priorities of things to be working on over the 23-24 year. And that'll be a big part of the agenda for the next meeting in terms of setting those priorities. Plus, we agreed as part of the priorities to put the stake in the ground that I mentioned earlier, that we will put a recommendation in front of the board for the Ian assessment strategy in the main board meeting. And that was the meeting.
Thank you. Comments? Todd Reiner.
Well, we covered the two issues that will go to the Governance Committee in March, so that will come back in the March board meeting. I have two other committees that didn't make it to the agenda, but the Risk Management Committee, which is led by Mr. Bill Dunker, we've talked about him tonight, but he's leading the charge on the vendor contract agreements, and Craig Schneider, who's a career insurance professional, is on the committee, and he has kind of taken the lead in regards to the actual insurance claim. And so he's working real hard on that, and I know he's got a meeting, I think, with Chuck tomorrow on that, so kudos to both of those. The Strategic Planning Committee, which I'll use the quotes in organization, met yesterday, and that particular committee elected Mr. Jerry Kern as the spokesperson, because they didn't want to elect a committee or a chairperson. But Jerry's going to lead that particular committee from a spokesperson perspective. And I think there was a bunch of different topics talked about yesterday. But timelines there, the charter will be put together and drafted and submitted for board approval in March to formally recognize the committee. And Jack Pounds, Jerry, and Marilyn Cranich are on the committee, have committed to put together a rough draft of a strategic plan by the April board meeting for the board's review. So they're off and flying. So that's my two updates, or actually three updates on the committees. Thank you.
Thank you, Todd.
I'd like to ask a question.
Of course.
I wanted to go back, when you were talking about the wall being repaired, what is the status of the fence, the chain link fence repairs? And I think it's the tennis courts need to be repaired as well. Do we have a vendor identified, or?
We met with Moore Sports this past week, who's a resident here, who obviously does fence, but also does sports. We're expecting a proposal from that particular person for all of the fence as well as the courts. We've received 2 other quotes that were incomplete. When you drill down into it, you started to see that they missed, long sections of fence that needed to be readdressed. And we're still waiting for Eaton Fence, who's one of our vendors that we've used in the past, who we did sign up to do the tennis court fencing. We're still waiting for them. They actually did a review. They walked the whole property. We're just waiting for them to put together all of their quotes. My impression is this is did I gotta put more quarters in here? Oh, there, I'm back, okay. I think I said this in coffee conversations. This is a very expensive job for any fence company. And if you know of any fence companies, please send them my way. I kind of feel like they're afraid of this size job because this is there's not a lot of fence companies around here. They're all hitting the residential neighborhood kind of things. I've met with a gentleman today who is a general contractor in those large, hotel constructions. He's got some names for me that he's going to send. So I'm, fence in Lee County right now is difficult to find these folks. And I find these folks, I call them, and they never show up. So I'm not sure what that is, but we do need, the roofs here were important. The fence has always been important because this is a gated community with broken fences. So, I'll continue to beat the drum that we need a good vendor, and we're just not coming forward. Well, I have a lot of hope for this More Sports. That was a very good conversation. It lives in the community, knows the community, so, but they need time to kind of matriculate their quotes.
Is there any conflict of interest with them living here?
Yeah, yes, maybe.
Well, that's precluded, however.
Is he the sole owner of the business or a partner?
That I don't know.
Have you checked with the city to see what fence companies are listed and licensed?
Yeah, he did the pickleball course.
They did the pickleball course. They did the conversion on the tennis course to pickleball. More Sport took care of it.
There's two guys, I believe it's 2 owners. One lives here, one doesn't. One runs the physical part, one runs the office. So, but they're the only one answering.
Yeah, well, I know people fence. I put in an order to pay for my fence in October, and they just finished it yesterday.
Also, if I can, since I have the mic, I want to thank Chuck. I had a meeting at Calypso Park with a safety and security fellow, and I roll up there and I see Chuck, John's the new guy's name? John, and Brian. And they're out there tearing the fence away from the water and doing all this hard labor and, just working their butts off out there because they can't get a company to come out there and do that job. So, see this guy out there, he's sweating. And I'm not helping, because I'm my job. But
At least let him up here.
yeah, I should have, but it was early. It was like 9:30. Well, it's never too early. But thank you. Thank you. Seeing you out there doing that kind of work, it was great. Thank you.
Before we go on to the next item, I want to make sure that were we cavalier at moving to the 30th? Was there any reason that we needed to do by the 23rd? Was some decision we need to make earlier?
No, it was probably just looking at the calendar, grabbing the wrong.
They're looking at the 4th Thursday instead of
Yeah.
the last one.
Yeah.
Okay. Any problem moving to the 30th? Okay, let's leave it to 30th. All right. Now we don't need a vote for the meeting adjourned, but it's a great meeting, and the meeting is now adjourned. And the floor is open for resident comments. Anybody? You gotta step up.
This is bad.
Good, well, all right, let's keep it.
So, one suggestion I would have, is this working? one suggestion I would have, when we talk about the delinquencies, you showed the percentages, but I think it would be helpful to us to know what the actual amounts are.
The numbers.
I have to check what I'm allowed to say. I know I can talk about the numbers in aggregate with the community. I don't know if I can get into the individual numbers.
No, I'm just looking
Yeah,
broad.
so I just need to check what's allowable under Florida law.
When we were talking earlier about the state coming in and cleaning up behind Malaysia, there was no mentions of K Circle, and I know that there has been an issue with K Circle since Hurricane Ian. And being on the landscape committee, I walk back there and it's a mess. And that was not addressed at all with the state and what the work they're doing. So I'm just wondering,
Which part?
K's that backs up to the farm?
Okay.
It's included.
It's included?
It's included in
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Good. Good.
I was going to say, I was going to have a similar comment. I know the fence between us and the property on the west, so between Somerville and the property of the west, that fence is just a tangled mess. And there's a plethora of trees from the neighboring property that are, some of them are still across the fence, some of them are just close to. Was that also included or not? No.
Yes.
Okay. And then my other comment, just to piggyback off of what Chuck was talking about with fencing companies, I know in Somerville, we've been working for months, going back to late November, early December to get our pool fencing repaired. And I know we've got pool here. I just talked with my repair guy. I've been waiting 3 weeks since he was on site and to give us an estimate. There are so many pool cage repairs going on. The aluminum companies can't manufacture the product quick enough, which is creating significant delays. So he's like, I can't even tell you what the price of your fence will be because I can't get the manufacturer to commit to when he could manufacture the into that across the board with multiple vendors in different products and different scenarios. I know residents in general are anxious to get repairs done, but sometimes dealing with a little bit bigger project and these commercial situations, there's just, product is a tough one to solve for at the moment. Thank you.
We're still videoing this? Good, good.
That's good, because I have an announcement that I was just reminded of on Saturday, this Saturday at 6 o'clock, karaoke.